Welcome back for another episode of Conflict and Cuisine in our kind of post Israel Independence Day vibe here. I'm your host, Seth Frantzman, the senior Middle East analyst at the Jerusalem Post, and this is the co host, Erica Schachne.
Hi, I'm the editor of the National Magazine and in Jerusalem, the local supplement. So, hello.
Hello again. It's great. I hope you had a good. It was Independence Day, and then there's also prior to that, Israel has Remembrance Day as well.
Yeah, it's been a little strange. First of all, in the lead up, everybody was a little nervous. It's just, you have to prepare yourself emotionally given the year and a half of war. And then we had the unfortunate fires that kind of disrupted everything. So, we could get back to that later, but overall, I did have my steak, and I did feel like I celebrated 77 years, so all good.
You had a barbecue.
No, my friend's soldier son grilled something up for me, so I tasted freedom. I tasted Israelihood.
Do you usually have your steak medium rare, or you're one of those people that likes it kind of overcooked?
I usually go with what the chef thinks. I always ask the waiter, I'm like, how is it best? And they're like, well, we recommend medium rare. So I go with that. I like it a little red.
Right.
You know?
Usually a good steak would be done medium rare. You wouldn't want to get any more cooked than that. Otherwise, you might as well just take that and just throw it away and get a chicken McNuggets.
Right, just throw it on the floor and stamp on it.
Yeah, use it as a pillow or a cushion.
Or a hockey puck, yeah.
So speaking of a country that... Well,
yeah, go on. Sorry. How was your barbecue?
I had a good barbecue. It was lots of food. It was we had kebabs and meat and chicken wings and pesto and more chicken and salads and stuff. It was fun.
Did you include American staples like relish?
We did not have any relish.
Sauerkraut?
No.
Okay.
Sauerkraut.
Right.
Sauerkraut. It's interesting because they used to call the Germans krauts. What's the connection with sauerkraut? I think that's because Germans eat sauerkrauts when they have like kielbases and stuff.
Yeah, I think sour means vinegary. Yeah, so.
Something like that. Speaking of a country,
okay.
I think having a kind of a vinegar-like expression these days. It's Syria.
Yeah.
Because Syria is Israel, one of Israel's northern neighbors, and it has a new government since December when the Assad regime collapsed.
Sadly.
The new government, I don't know if it's sad for us.
No, I know.
Sad for Russia.
Sad for them.
Yeah, well, sad for Assad because he has to live in the wastelands of Moscow now.
Right, not sad for anyone else.
In one of the Brezhnev 9-story apartment buildings in which you have to wait 6 years to get a sink or something.
I wonder if they're ever going to go Tama or something, like Pinoy Binoy.
Ah, that's right. In Israel, when they take those old 60s buildings built by Soviet engineers and then they redo them.
That would be amazing if Ozma had to live through a Tama.
Well, she could have a show about how to redesign a 60s Soviet apartment block, maybe. Anyway, Syria.
Redesign with Ozma coming up on the Home and Gardens channel.
Syria is in conflict these days because I guess a week ago or so, in late April, a rumor spread that there was an audio recording of a Druze. The Druze are an ethnic religious minority in Syria and Israel and Lebanon. Anyway, there was a audio recording in which a Druze sheikh or something had allegedly insulted the Islamic prophet Muhammad. And this caused some extremists to then threaten the Druze, attack some students, and then begin attacks on some Druze towns, suburbs of Damascus, which led to the murder or killing of several people. And that led Israel to intervene because Israel has said it will not tolerate, the attacks on the Druze minority.
Right. Israel did the right thing by doing that. And the Druze in general, they don't seem like troublemakers in general. They usually have a quota of following the rules or laws of whatever country they're in. And like, say, for example, in Israel, they serve in the army. They say that that was a manufactured excuse just to attack them. I mean, they've basically been going after every other minority, right? That's the feeling. I mean, the Alawites, hard to feel sorry for them, but Christians, other Kurds, it seems like the regime is not thrilled with these minorities. So what's your feeling on it? I think, we should protect them.
I mean, I guess that's the question, right? I mean, is it within Israel's capabilities to really protect an area that's something like 40 to 50 miles from Israel's border. This area the Jews live in, it's called Soweda. It's a mountainous, kind of mountainous area of lava rocks and stuff. Is it, can Israel do that, or is Israel going to make a mistake in building up hopes and dreams among these people and then letting them down and then actually causing them to be suppressed? In fact, kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, that's really sad. I didn't think about it that way. I just thought about it as coming to the emergency aid of people who clearly need it. But you're right. I don't know how long-term their strategy is, but I mean, they are right on the border. They're good people, I think. I don't have so much interaction with Druze, but they seem to be very peaceful. And, I doubt they would curse Muhammad, even though I have no knowledge whatsoever of that. And that's not an excuse to kill 6 people. So, I don't know. I don't know what our capabilities are right now, and I don't know what the need really is. Like, to shelter them, do we just have to protect them and, like, build a fence and then fire back? Like, what is needed, really? Do we have to tell Trump to be like, tell the Syrian, leader now to step back and calm down? Is that what we need to do in diplomacy? I mean...
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of clarity there. What is interesting is I read today that Israel had sent some troops. Israel's on the Mount Hermon, is the tallest mountain.
The reunited mountain.
Well, it's the tallest mountain in Israel, basically. I mean, Israel annexed the Golan Heights or whatever back in the day. So, but Israel didn't control the whole mountain. It controlled like up near the top of the peak.
Not the summit, though.
But the soldiers would have to sit there and look at the Syrians.
We always end up talking about this.
The Syrians would be sitting at the top of the mountain, grilling steaks and
Sunning themselves.
Sunning themselves and grilling steaks, while the poor Israeli soldiers had to suffer a few hundred meters below the summit, in a little hut.
And they had to crook their necks up all the time.
Yeah, so... Anyway, Israel grabbed that top peak on December 8th when the Assad regime collapsed. And then basically...
It's now called Bibi's Peak.
That's right. So they grabbed it, but apparently they didn't dismantle all the Syrian bases and infrastructure up there. So
I'm sure it was really cutting edge.
Yeah, it was cutting edge Soviet-style technology, basically. Yeah. And so what they did was they sent some troops in recently to take down and destroy what was left of some Syrian base that was still up there, some metal sheds and stuff.
And some Assad propaganda,
They found apparently a mechanical bull that was used by the Assad regime up there.
That strangely tracks.
Apparently Assad had among all the weird stuff that they found in his palace, they found these pictures of him, wearing the Speedos and stuff. You remember that?
Yes, how could I forget?
Apparently he had some sort of interest in American cowboy culture, and he wanted to be a bull rider, maybe.
Could it be the Golani cowboys he's interested in?
He was very jealous of Israel's Golan cowboys, that's right. He would look down on them and say, why not me?
Why can't I herd cattle and wear spurs?
Right.
Maybe that's what he's doing in Moscow now.
Yeah, that's right. He's probably herding cattle and wearing spurs, just like in that movie Rocky where they show Rocky training or whatever to fight the Russian or something.
That is exactly like Rocky, that he's going to run up the courthouse.
Exactly.
Yeah, but where is that dangerous weapon of mass destruction bull riding thing now?
That's a good question. The mechanical bull it's not really clear what's been done with it, but it was confiscated, and it's considered a military asset of the Assad regime, so it will have to be blown up.
I'm sure it's a mascot at some base right now, and every soldier takes a turn on it.
It will be used for target practice with F-35s. The first time an F-35 has been used to destroy a mechanical bull.
All right, there's a first time for everything. Trophy time.
Speaking of a first,
mm-hmm.
the Houthis, our friends in Yemen.
We always talk about them too, unfortunately. Yeah.
The Houthis launched a missile
as they've been known to do.
And it managed to kind of fly 2,000 kilometers, and then an Israeli interceptor missed it or malfunctioned. An arrow, or what's called HETS, the arrow interceptor.
Right.
And then an American, maybe THAAD, I think it's a Chad or THAAD.
Thaddeus?
THAAD.
Okay, Thahad.
It's pronounced Tahad.
Tahad. Okay.
Anyway, that also didn't get
a hit.
And so the missile went flying down and hit next to Ben Gurion International Airport, which in Hebrew is called the Natbag.
Natbag.
And you saw that, I guess.
Yeah, I did. First of all, I can't blame the army or whatever it is, Israel, for failing to intercept this missile. They've intercepted so many others. So eventually it's going to happen. It was inconvenient. I heard the boom all the way in Yerushalayim. Lots of airlines canceled their flights. I'm sure it was scary for the people inside the airport. And it definitely, I guess, shook our feelings a little bit, our feeling of safety. It's not a great feeling when they can hit your airport. How did you take it?
Right. It's less than optimal, right? Sitting on the tarmac in a plane, being fastened your seatbelt in your upright and locked position, and having a ballistic missile fall within
Whiz
500
by.
meters. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, even before you've gotten the chance to jump on that alcohol cart and grab your cheap, in-flight
Bottle.
your in-flight meal that is probably going to poison you anyway.
Or your tomato juice.
Yeah. I mean, look, you already have enough dangers flying because of the in-flight service is so bad. So, I mean, having ballistic
Bathrooms
missiles
are
fall
just
you.
hideous. Yeah.
No.
So, good point. But yeah, I'm sure that wasn't pleasant, but nobody was hurt as far as I know.
No, that's not true. Several people were injured.
Were they?
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
so sorry. How did I not know this?
No, I think they were moderately, a few. I think
Right.
some were injured or something.
People might have been in shock also.
Yeah.
And it shook all of us. I mean, literally and figuratively. So I just hope that we'll continue to intercept all of them.
Right.
But now Israel's talking about directly hitting the Houthis themselves instead of letting the U.S. take care of the job.
Your flight, I think, on Ryanair was canceled. That you were going to go to, was it Romania to monitor elections or something?
Was I? What, to visit the Gazans that were relocated over there?
That's what you were going to go cover. But now, because the flights have been canceled, you'll have to stay here and just go and have coffee or something down the street.
Yeah, at the Romanian coffee house. Or I could ask the Romanian gymnastics team to come here instead.
Exactly.
Because they do excel in gymnastics.
No, not anymore, though.
Oh,
That
their
was like
legacy.
It was like in the 80s or something, no?
Yeah, eat their Wheaties. Yeah. I love
That
how
was when they had Ceausescu and the Soviets, basically involved. Maybe there was there steroids or maybe something. I don't know. But
they had the space program. They had the Olympics.
Chess.
Yes.
Right.
Piano or opera, I imagine.
Yeah. Romanian opera. It's mostly about that with vampires.
Right. How did we even get here? I love it. Right. So Ryanair.
The flights were canceled.
Right. So the flights were canceled. It was inconvenient, but I think everything is back to normal. Just a day or two
Yeah,
later.
well, that's kind of cool. But
yeah.
But you know what's not back to normal?
What?
The Iran deal talks.
What is Iran's version of normal? There's no normal.
Causing crisis, causing everyone to be
Wreaking
worried,
havoc.
Wreaking havoc.
Proxies.
And then sitting in Tehran and just, we're having food and we're having some.
Stroking your beard, readjusting your.
That's an interesting point. They don't have that. That's not true though. But the Iranians are an Islamic regime.
Really?
No, I mean
No. I'm
it's
listening.
officially an Islamic style regime.
Oh, you mean the Iranians themselves?
I don't think a lot of them have beards.
Well, a lot of Iranian people are not really that fervent. They're just very normal, everyday people. They're not mullahs.
Right. They're not. No, that's true. I guess some of the clerics do have facial hair, but I just think in general,
the supreme leaders seem to have long beards.
He has like a giant grandfather, like what's
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, or that wizard in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf.
Yitzhak Goldknopf?
No, Gandalf.
I know.
He's kind of like has a Gandalf kind of thing going on.
He does.
But most of the Iranian regime are just kind of look like tax accountants, to be honest.
Yeah, they look like regular people because that's who they are. They're an ally to us. So it would be incredible if we could liberate them, get them on our side.
Flip them.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really have to. They want to.
The people, but not the leadership. The people.
No, yeah. The leadership, unfortunately, is in control.
Leadership is no bueno.
No bueno. They oppress us. They oppress the world. They oppress their own people. They're not good people. They're not good.
So if you had to flip a coin, what do you think? You think the Iran deal is going to happen with the Trump administration or not?
I have no way of knowing. Trump is so unpredictable, and he just doesn't want to seem to bomb Iran. I think that's his major impetus. He wants to quiet it down as fast as possible. That's what it seems to me. I have no way of knowing. Israel's a little bit worried. I mean, what is this? What's he going to agree upon with them? what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Trump administration doesn't want more wars, more endless wars, more, so it's obvious that they would prefer not to get in a conflict with Iran.
They want to stabilize the Middle East. That's what they always wanted.
If we had to flip a coin,
Okay.
I mean, and you had to, let's say, whether this deal is going to happen, what do you think it's going to happen? Will it happen?
I mean, I think some sort of agreement will happen. That doesn't mean that it'll be a definitive agreement and they'll stop harassing the whole world. I think that Trump's main impetus is to stabilize the Middle East, and he wants to do that with as little bloodshed and American intervention as possible. So I think he just is like, let's have these talks, let's get it done. But at the same time, he still has those sanctions on Iran. And I don't know, Israel doesn't really know what to expect. I personally don't know what to expect. There's no way to know. He wants this. Trump basically pushes through what he wants these days. It's not a bad thing necessarily. What's your feeling about it?
Well, I think that's right. Trump doesn't want another endless war or more conflict. I mean, on the other side of the coin, obviously, he has vowed that they shouldn't have a nuclear weapon. I suppose they could just walk away from these talks, and then Iran could just say, okay, we're not going to enrich much more, but we're going to keep it on the down low over here. And the U.S. could kind of say, okay, fine, we don't need to go to war if you just kind of stop making trouble. So that could happen.
But Trump isn't dumb enough to think that they're actually going to stop enriching. So, I mean, he's going to send those IAEA inspectors, and then they're going to just hide everything in the closet, and then they'll be like, oh, no, we stopped enriching. We're only up to like 2%. We're not up to the enrichment that we need. I mean, Trump's smarter than that. So he wants to put, like a Band-Aid on the conflict? I don't think so. I mean...
Right, that's a question. I mean, maybe part of the art of the deal is just to get the other side to pretend so that you can walk away from it and pretend you got a deal, and that's kind of cool as well.
But doesn't Trump want to have a lasting solution? I mean...
He does, but he's also got himself involved in so many different things. There's the Russia-Ukraine talks, the Gaza talks, the Iran talks, the tariffs. Make America healthy again. I mean, you can't do everything.
He has his finger in every single pie. Every pie.
Right,
yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, he just can't do everything.
I mean, is there a chance, do you think that this is a coordinated thing that him and maybe Netanyahu or whoever, his military advisors, are like, okay, we're going to distract Iran and pretend that we're going to have an agreement with them, and meanwhile, we're just going to bomb the hell out of them?
I'd say the chances of bombing are quite low. My sense is it's a kind of 0% chance because nobody really wants to do it. It's like those guys at a bar that are drunk and each one is saying, well, why don't, I'm holding him back. I'm holding him back from fighting. But in fact, nobody wants to fight.
Right. It's just messy and uncomfortable, and nobody wants, God forbid, dead soldiers. They had enough of Afghanistan. They don't need more boots on the ground. So, they just want to clean up the region, make it quiet. I mean... The Houthis are not quiet. They are an Iranian proxy that is not quiet. So I know the U.S. is bombing the hell out of them.
That hasn't been successful either, though.
No, not at all.
What
if you had to make a prediction about how these talks would end, what would your prediction be?
Well, I think, it seems that now the Iranian foreign minister is pretty annoyed about Trump's recent comments about dismantling the program. And the Iranians are accusing Israel of having sabotaged this somehow. So it's going to be hard, it seems, at the Americans to sit down again if there's no trust, and they're going to have to rebuild that confidence. So it's unclear. I don't know. I think, again, it's a toss-up to see what can happen.
Yeah, trust is such a big part of a relationship with Iran.
Yeah, you don't think that that's a trustworthy regime, huh, that you can just count upon?
I don't know. The trust is broken. Our relationship will never be the same.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Let's move on then to the other thing that's happening closer to Israel than Iran, which is only like 3,000 kilometers away.
Mm-hmm.
The Gaza war is still going on. It's been 19 months, 59 hostages.
Hard to believe still.
Israel's cabinet has decided today on a momentous decision that it's going to militarily occupy Gaza, and in the words of the I think Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, we need to stop being afraid of the word occupation.
Right.
We're going to go in, we're going to conquer and conquest and take and occupy. Those weren't all his words. The first part were his words.
Right. He's like, we're reclaiming the word occupy.
Right.
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 All the thesaurus, like all the
Right.
synonyms of occupy.
It's now going to be a positive word with positive spin. And when you think of occupation, it's just going to be, glory and pride and amazing. And, anyway, so that's what Israel.
Glory. Yeah, like this steak is occupying my stomach.
Exactly. And now that Israel's going to up the military operations in Gaza, take it over, take it control, move the civilians away from Hamas, like Moses parted the Red Sea.
Right.
Civilians will go away, Hamas will go somewhere else.
Go your own way, as Fleetwood Mac
And
said.
speaking of parting the Red Sea, you told me you know the name of this new operation.
Yes, it's called Gideon's Chariots. Do you find that to be glory? Do you sing?
I was not aware that Gideon of the Bible had chariots.
I think everyone had chariots at that time. Do you feel like it's a fiery symbol of like Elijah or?
Gideon was a very flamboyant commander. They say that he used to spend time doing his nails before he would go into battle with his broadsword. Yeah.
I didn't know that
Riding a
manicures
chariot.
were a thing back then.
Well, they weren't among everyone, but some men would do their nails before battle.
Oh, so Gideon was a metrosexual.
They say that his armor was metrosexual.
Okay, he spent a lot of time like buffing it.
But he would buff it. Yeah, that was most of what he did. Because look, in those days, you didn't have a lot. Soldiers didn't have much stuff. So
right,
it was basically a tent and a
shield.
They didn't even usually have a horse. They might have one donkey they'd share between the whole squad.
Yeah,
that would carry their things.
Oh man,
and carry their water sacks.
Right, their water jerry.
But apparently they had so that's an interesting question.
But they had a nosei kelim. They had somebody who carried their equipment.
I just don't think of the Jewish people in that era as being like a chariot-born people. But I mean, I guess they were. I don't know.
I think they were. When you think about in the Navi, all those battles, they do seem pretty fierce.
When did Gideon live? Was he a prophet, or
I
he
do
was
believe
a
he was.
judge, or a?
Oh God, it's so embarrassing. Just by the way, my dad's name is Gideon in Hebrew. So.
Was he hanging out like back in the time with like Barak and
Ehud?
No,
I know.
No, not gold.
The general,
no,
the general.
Gold.
I know.
Barak, the general, and like back, or was it like the time of Shimshon? When was that?
Oh God, I don't know. It's all like a blur of like seventh grade Navi class.
Was he one of King David's lieutenants back, or was it that time?
I think he was after King David.
Jonathan and King Shaul.
I think he was the only child of someone. Or no, I'm thinking of somebody else. He went to Eli HaKohen. I'm really embarrassed. I'm demonstrating my ignorance.
Let me help you. We'll cut this out. Gideon was one of the judges, and that's before King David.
We got that right to the judges.
Oh, you were right. I am not right. There are judges in Jerusalem. So are you in favor of the name Gideon's Chariots? Does it inspire fear? Does it inspire glory? Does it inspire winning?
Look, I mean, this has been a very long war, and this is one operation within it. So
right.
I think that, it remains to be seen if it will be successful. And I think if you're going to name the operation after something in the Bible, you hope that you'll be successful. Otherwise, it could be a bit embarrassing.
Well, Gideon was a judge, so I assume we're going to be judging everyone we meet. So that'll be interesting.
Well, there were lots of judges, though. Not all of them were successful.
Like fashion police?
Well, no, but I mean, Samson, it's kind of an interesting story, right? But he ended up down in Gaza, and then actually, it's interesting. Why did they just call it after Samson? He died in Gaza, right? He pulled the temple down.
Pull down the temple pillars.
Right. They could have called it Samson's temple pillars.
That's 3 words, though. Usually it's 2 words. Oh, no, it's pillar of fire.
Pillar of Samson.
Yeah, pillar of Samson.
Well, that could have
muscle of Samson.
Yeah, right hand of Samson.
Right.
And that would leave it open that you could have another operation called left arm.
Left hand of Samson. Right. Blind eyes of Samson.
Exactly.
The seeing eyes. We should be involved in naming these operations, but I don't know. Apparently reservists are not fully jazzed about going back in. I can't say I blame them or their families. They've been in, some of them, for a year and a half. It's tough. Don't we have a shortage of soldiers?
Well, there's a shortage, but I mean, obviously they need the reservists to go because I think the regular troops are also exhausted. I mean, And so it is a very long. It's the longest, I think, most difficult war in Israel's history. I think it's quite different, probably.
Right.
The Lebanon War went on for a long time, but I don't think it had as high as number of troops and stuff for such a period of time. So
Right.
it's going to be interesting. I mean, but it does. If you read the reports from the cabinet meeting about this new occupation,
Right.
then it does sound like a lot more military resources, because this whole idea of Israel being involved in distributing humanitarian aid.
Right. Well, now they're going to let it be a civilian thing and not Israel doing it. So I think that's actually a good idea.
If you're a civilian, would you sign up to be a contractor to help distribute humanitarian aid in Gaza?
It doesn't seem like the most, I don't know, success-inspiring operation. It seems really thorny.
Right.
I don't know that I would want to get in there for that tender and try to do that RFP. I'm not sure that I would run in to do that.
Yeah, it seems difficult. I mean, there's lots of people, civilians there, and it's not clear. I think distributing humanitarian aid is difficult. And what the UN, I guess, and other organizations have done is just they don't really distribute it. They just give a guy a few dollars and say, hey, drive that truck to the next checkpoint. And the Hamas guys will just take it and distribute it for you. And then we'll write it down in the ledger as distributed to Gazans. In fact, what we did was just give it to the Hamas mafia.
Who takes
and they took it. Yeah. So it's kind of like the way things used to be run in the New York construction business back in the 70s or 80s, when the mafia just controlled everything.
Right.
And if your job was to build an apartment building, you just said, yeah, we built it, but the mafia actually did all the work.
Right, and you just paid them off and it got done.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
You
what
never
the
go
UN
behind their back.
No, that's what the UN and NGOs would have been doing, and they kind of prefer it that way. That's what they like.
The UN prefers it that way.
Yeah, because the UN makes lots of money. They get lots of free SUVs to drive around Israel and get drunk in bars in Tel Aviv.
Oh, I can't stand
And then
those
they get
SUVs.
credit for distributing all this aid to Gazans, when in fact they don't distribute any aid. They just give it to people. They give it to Hamas, and Hamas distributes it. And that's it's a win-win for everyone, apparently.
Well, it's a win-win for like hotels that they hang out in, and
and I'm sure they pay the full price, right?
Yeah, and the
5-star.
gyms that they go to.
Yeah, there's probably gyms in Tel Aviv that are just all UN people that were supposed to be working in Gaza, but are sitting there doing this one and whatever.
They need muscles. They need the lateral back muscles to do that, to give out sacks of flour.
They say that most UN workers skip leg day.
Oh,
So
a leg day is the worst.
No.
I like how you got that in
they don't
there.
like to do leg day.
They don't. Were they like chicken legs?
They have small lower body, and then they're like huge on the top.
Yeah, that sounds like the UN in general. They like to talk a lot, but they don't do anything. So when it comes to really walking, they're just
So
like
it's more like just a huge head
do.
and then like a small body.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to end up being an American organization. I don't know. Who's going to distribute it? Is it going to be like Green Giant? Green Giant.
Jack in the Box.
Keebler, the Keebler elf.
It could be one of those. It could be like Carl's Jr.
That would be amazing. Or this is sponsored by McDonald's, right?
That's like in that
The
movie,
Happy Meal.
Idiocracy, where everything's
Right.
sponsored by someone.
Right. They're like, here's your Happy Meal, Gazans.
That would be depressing.
I mean, funny for,
Ben and
for
Jerry's,
those who
Ben
are.
and Jerry's could do it.
Ben and Jerry's loves
No, they're very
that
supportive
part of
these
the
causes.
world. Yeah, so they should, I think, sponsor it as well. And who doesn't like ice cream? They just have to make sure they have the right refrigeration, so it doesn't melt in the sun.
Speaking of sun, it's been quite hot in Israel, and that had caused a bunch of fires to break out, I think, on
Was
April
it the
30th.
heat? I mean, the government claims it's arson.
It's not clear, right? Well, no. Obviously, the arson only works when it's hot.
Right.
If you
use a hell of a lot of lighter
look,
fluid.
it doesn't matter how many arsonists there are in Antarctica. Nothing ever gets burned down.
Right. Penguins aren't really.
Penguins are not flammable.
No.
They have lots of fat on them. That's
Right.
why they can kind
That's how they get through the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there
Everlasting.
were these fires that burned a whole
Right.
swath
Very
of the
sad.
area of the
That was
Jerusalem
horrible.
forest.
We're laughing, but it was so awful.
Every year, parts of the Jerusalem forest are burned.
They are. And it just seems like this is a seasonal thing. It's a tinderbox and off they go. But this just seems a little bit early in the year. And also, they did say that it was helped along by arsonists.
Right. So it could be a bad omen for the summer.
Right. Or it could be that we also didn't have enough firefighters. We weren't funding them.
But I thought they actually put it out kind of quickly compared to in the past.
Yeah, no, they definitely were committed to that. And then they also had help from countries like Bulgaria that they called in, Italy. So that was nice to see that our neighbors came through.
Yes.
But it was a very strange evening on Yom HaAtzmaut when it was just so quiet and
Right.
dark, and there was no transition from Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzmaut. That was really difficult. Yeah.
I think, though, the fact is, because of the hostages and stuff, it's hard to have it's okay to have that kind of depressing a bit.
Yeah, it felt pretty fitting, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Quick question then about the fires. There's a debate in Israel about if they're going to replant it, that whether they should use the trees that they used back in the day. I guess that are not, some people say are not from here, some of those trees or whatever, or whether they should just kind of plant like bushes and things the way it supposedly looked in Ottoman times when it was kind of a barren, landscape. I mean, are you a tree person? A tree firster, a tree supremacist?
Lover, a tree hugger. I actually
Right.
did hug a tree right after October 7th. I was feeling like I needed love, and it did feel good. But I don't know. That's a really interesting question. Should we stay true to the landscape, or should we plant shade-bearing trees? There's not a lot of shade in Israel.
No, we need more shade.
We need more shade. Should we plant trees that will give us great resources, like maple syrup?
That'd be a
That would be lovely. I don't know. It's up for debate because on one hand, I want to stay true to the landscape, and I don't want to make it seem really ridiculous, like a maple tree in the middle of the Negev. On the other hand, I do think that this could be an opportunity to replant. So I have to think about it more. And I'm not a horticulturalist, and I'm not an expert. But that's an intriguing question. What say you?
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't matter to me that much.
No?
But we should move on, I think, quickly to a little segment we call Nobody Cares About Algeria.
I do care about trees, but I do not care about Algeria. I continue not to care.
Nobody cares about it because it's not usually in the news, but you did some digging, and what did you find?
I found out that the 80th anniversary of VE Day is coming up.
Victory in Europe.
Right. And to mark the Allies' victory in World War II. And Algeria, there was an article that their troops, I will check the number, 30,000 of them were mobilized to fight with the Allies, and 7,500 were killed by Hitler's forces. So they want that recognition. And then the article went off on a tangent about how after that they were occupied by France, and then Israel should take a lesson from that. But yeah, I did not know that Algeria, the North African Regiment was present. So, I mean, I salute that. We should be grateful to all our allied victors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one way that they could try to honor the Algerians would be to include them in more of the mentions of what happens, but also in popular culture, for instance. How they've done in Star Wars, how they've gone back in CGI and added things in the background, like
That would
creatures.
be great, yeah.
And they could go back to these old war movies, or like Band of Brothers, and kind of just add in the background in CGI a few Algerians wandering across the landscape.
In their robes. I love that idea. I think it's inclusion.
Right.
And that will get recognition, and it won't be incongruous at all.
No, I think that would be nice. It's just, any movie. What was that one with Tom Hanks? It's the D-Day one.
Band of Brothers?
No, that's
no, you just
Private
said that.
Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. And that was with Matt Damon, right? He was Private Ryan.
Algerians on the transport as well.
Well, what if there was a secret Algerian brother?
Saving Private Ahmed something. That'd be interesting. Let's go now to the last segment in our repertoire, which is the cuisine part of this.
Everyone's favorite, at least mine and yours.
Everyone's favorite. And what is your favorite breakfast food?
Well, mine, I like everything but cereal if I was old school, but I know your favorite is Eggs Benedict.
My favorite is Eggs Benedict. Now, do you know how to make Eggs Benedict?
I do not.
Do you know what is usually in what's on it, or what is?
Yes, it's usually an egg that is, I guess, soft boiled or poached, and it is on a brioche type bun with hollandaise sauce, and here in Israel with salmon. It's quite delicious.
Salmon. In the West, you'd have spinach or ham, I think.
It's very rich and delicious.
Mm-hmm.
breakfast item.
So let's talk about the components real quick. I don't really care about the bread that much. I mean, you can take a brioche or whatever and toast it and put butter
I
on
do
it, whatever.
think a brioche is integral to it.
No, I'm not against it. I'm just saying let's put the bread aside for a second because
Okay,
you could
that
choose
is not
that
the
and
main
how
ingre-
you could, how
Right.
you're going to buy it anyway. You're not going to make it probably. So
Right.
You get an English muffin or you get a brioche or whatever, or a pita, whatever you want to put at the bottom.
Right.
And then you got the eggs. So I'll just go quick the recipe for how I do poached eggs and how I think they are done
Do
best.
you use large or medium eggs?
I use medium, I guess, but I don't really think about it. But first of all, I break the eggs into little saucers so they're kind of sitting there, so they're not. You don't have to break them directly into the water, so they're not going to break or whatever. Like you want with steaks. Also, you can inspect them then.
Right. Smart.
You get the water put it on a medium heat up to like a simmer, so it's almost boiling.
And then that's just a regular pot.
A pot of water, and you put in a little bit of salt, and I pour in a bit of vinegar.
Ooh.
That calms the water and causes the egg to turn into kind of a little, it looks like Saturn, like the planet with
Like
the
a
ring.
dome.
It goes,
Yeah.
yeah, because it doesn't like vinegar as much, so it doesn't spread out.
Ah, that's some science right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you whisk the water in a clockwise fashion so it's like a little tornado.
Do you have a whisk that you do?
No, I use like a large wooden spoon.
Okay.
And then you pour the eggs in right afterwards so that they are kind of going around in circles.
Oh, wow.
And that also causes them to create this, like, turn into like kind of like a little planet in there.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can put that aside. You should keep them on that simmering, basically almost boiling or boiling, close to that point, about 4 minutes.
Okay.
And then you could look at them and take them out.
Right, but they're on no cover on the pot, right?
No, I don't think you need a cover.
Right.
So around 4 minutes. Now, so then the other difficult part to get right, because you want the eggs to get to a point where they're, cooked, but the yellow part is still gonna,
Gushy.
right. So there's a point there that's a happy medium,
You don't want it to solidify.
but you don't want it to. But you don't really want a raw egg either, I guess.
Right.
So.
Right.
The other thing that's hard to make is the hollandaise.
Right. I think it's pretty obscure in the sense that most people do not know how to make it. At least most people on the street.
Traditional recipe is 2 egg yolks. You got to get rid of the whites. So you do this little thing where you slosh them back and forth until you just have the yolk.
Separate the egg, yeah.
Right. So you have the 2 yolks. Usually what is traditional recipe is you whip them and beat them with a whisk until you aerate them a bit.
Okay.
And then, usually you have with that a little bit of cayenne pepper, a tad bit of Dijon mustard.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a little bit of lemon juice, and you can even use a tiny dash of hot water in case the whole sauce breaks when you're making it. But what you want to do is the other side of the coin is to take like a stick of butter. I forgot the exact amount, but it's a lot of butter.
Butter just makes everything better. Yeah.
You want to melt that down until it's kind of melted, but not a burning.
Right.
And then the whole complicated process is you've got it. Usually they suggest using some sort of a double boiler.
Okay.
Where you put the eggs in something that's kind of sitting on warm water or barely boiling water, and you pour in the butter slowly and whisk it really quickly, and then you add the lemon juice, and you don't want it to break because you don't want it. So it's very complicated. It's a bit complicated.
It sounds difficult, yeah, and constant monitoring and a very delicate sleight of hand. Yeah.
It's a pain.
Sounds like it.
There are 2 things I recently learned that can kind of aid this whole process along.
Okay.
One is I read that you can put a little dash of vinegar in with the egg when you're whisking it and aerating it.
Right.
And that basically, I don't know what that does, but that makes the process, it makes it much harder, much less likely to break.
Right. Something to the molecules, I imagine. Yeah.
Right. And then I learned with the butter, when you start to warm up butter before it begins to burn or whatever, there's these little white bits that come off, and you want to kind of skim those off.
Oh, okay.
So those processes will make it much less likely to break.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of whisk it all together, and it should become hollandaise. And then you just drizzle it over the you put your smoked salmon on your egg, and then you just drizzle it over, and that's the recipe.
Have you ever made it successfully?
I make hollandaise a lot.
Wow.
And, but I have just...
Very impressive.
There's this chef online. His name is Andrew Gruel.
Yes, he sent me his tweet.
So he's got this hollandaise.
Gruel,
so
what
go
a name.
Online, Google him.
Right.
Look up his hollandaise recipe, and you'll basically
He
follow
simplifies it?
Well, he's the one that showed me, I think it was to add a little dash of this vinegar, whatever, that basically seems to be a fail-safe.
Okay, thank you, Chef Gruel. And do you ever have anything alongside the Eggs Benedict, or it's a meal unto itself?
I usually I usually do 2 poached eggs, and if you've got that bread under there, it will be pretty heavy. I mean,
Yeah,
one thing you
very
can do, which is
filling.
nice, is to do
Yeah.
asparagus with it,
Oh, that sounds delightful.
right?
Is there any restaurant that you've been to in Jerusalem that you feel does a really good version?
No, I did an investigation this once and tried to find the
Yeah,
best
you
egg
did it for
Benedict
the in Jerusalem, I believe.
And basically, I thought none of them were that great. So, but
Oh.
they're, yeah, that's why you should know. That's why you follow our recipe, make it at home.
Yeah, listen to Seth, listen to Chef Gruel, and make your Eggs Benedict.
Right. And with that, it's a wrap. And thank you so much for being here. For
Yes, thank you. We love this. And until next time.
Until next time.